Hi, I'm Robyn Doolittle. I'm a reporter here at the Globe and Mail, and for the last 6 weeks, I have been covering the Hockey Canada trial in London. This is a case that has really captured the nation's attention. It's been a reckoning for our national game. This is a woman who has alleged that she was sexually assaulted by 5 former members of Canada's 2018 World Junior Hockey Team in a hotel room after a Hockey Canada gala. This happened 7 years ago. There's been an investigation from Hockey Canada itself, the NHL, 2 police investigations. We've now gone through a trial. There's a lot of really sensitive issues here. I've been getting tons of reader questions through email and social media. I know Sandra Martin, our Standards Editor, has been getting a ton of questions as well, whether it's about our coverage, whether it's about what's happening on the legal side, what I'm seeing in the courtroom, and we thought we would take a minute to answer some of those questions.
One reader asked, how is it fair that EM has to be questioned by 5 defense lawyers and none of the players had to take the stand?
Yeah, that's, I think, something that's been really remarkable about this case is EM was cross-examined by 5 defense lawyers and some of the best defense lawyers in the country. The reality is our justice system is set up with the presumption of innocence, as it should be. So these players are presumed innocent. The burden of proof is entirely on the Crown. They have, these players have the weight of the state and the resources of the state against them. And so the defense is entitled to challenge on behalf of their client this evidence from the complainant, and an accused person never has to take the stand in their own defense because they are presumed innocent. But it was no doubt, a very grueling cross-examination that lasted for 7 full days, and she was on the stand for 9 in total, as I said.
And this relates to another question that we got about why we reported in such detail about this cross-examination. It seemed to be prejudicial against EM. But as a journalist, your duty is to present the facts as they are presented in court. You're standing in so that the reader can understand how justice is being decided. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think if people are turning to the Globe for coverage of the trial, they want to know what happened that day. Our job is not to only include the evidence that might fit with some people's views. But that's interesting that the point of if they think that the cross-examination made EM look bad, I think in some ways we learned a lot of detail in those cross-examinations that could be helpful to her as well. What's interesting is that the versions of events are not actually that far apart. Besides this idea of who was the one that asked the players to come to the room. I mean, EM acknowledges that she went into autopilot, that she was just doing whatever she could to get through the night, and the players talk about what she was doing, but they're not that different. So I'm not trying to minimize how difficult the process would have been for her, though, at all. But I mean, that's part of covering a court case, is reporting what happened that day in court. I'm curious for you as the Standards editor, what kind of feedback are you getting from our readers about our coverage?
Generally, when readers reach out to me, they're having a strong reaction to something. Yeah. And this case, because there has been so much explicit detail testified in court, some readers are saying they're having a hard time just reading the coverage, and they wonder if it was the right thing for the Globe to get into that much detail. But as you pointed out, Robyn, that's what was covered in court. It's a journalist's job to report on what happened in court. It's actually a foundational aspect of the justice system that transparency be allowed, that citizens be allowed to see what's happening in court. So in some cases, the public can sit in, but most people don't have time to do that, so they will rely on their news organization to share that with them. So it's not been easy, and I know you've replied to similar messages as well. I try to acknowledge to readers that what their response is valid, and I try to give them context for the decisions that were made, as opposed to saying, oh, it's just okay, because obviously this is difficult stuff.
Yeah, I think, I do try to reply to people when they write me, and I always say that's a completely valid opinion. I understand why you have it. And I think that that's kind of what's beautiful about a newspaper in some ways, is we're there, we're your eyes and ears. and now this is for you to discuss and for us as a society to process.